Yeah, it was insane seeing that coming back in. Like we had to wait, I guess, like a day for it to process because the download speed is like, I don't know, every 10, 20 minutes you get like a pixel back or something. It's so small for each image because it's coming like from millions of miles away. And then, I don't know, it's like I think a 16 or 15-minute light speed delay too because of that. So it just takes forever to get here. But yeah, the images back were insane. We really slammed into it. It like made a literal crater in the surface of the asteroid, and then like just the debris spewing out of it's pretty insane to see. Even as we're pulling away, you can still see stuff, and it covered the camera. Like I think one of the cameras on the spacecraft was like almost like 70% covered by dust that it spewed up. So it made quite an impression. Got a lot back. But yeah, so I've just been kind of dealing with that, I guess, for a while. Lots of publicity for it. So we were working on like getting lots of videos together, animations and things. Things are starting to calm down a bit now, which is good. So I might be able to join more. Apologies for kind of being AWOL for like 2 months, I guess.
Yeah, that's all right. So when is this probe coming back then? Do you know like the time?
2023, September 2023.
Right. Okay.
There's like a specific window it needs to hit where basically like we're going to be coming pretty close in orbit to Earth, and then it's just going to jet out of orbit of Bennu, the asteroid, and just come right back to Earth. Right now it's literally like on the other side of like the solar system. It's like so far away. So it's got to kind of like loop around and come back.
Very cool. Good round trip.
That is such a weird thing to imagine, that it's just like the other side, completely the other side.
Yeah, which is insane kind of thinking about communicating with it. It had to basically drive itself too, because obviously you can't like pilot like a spacecraft if there's such a delay in the speed. So the engineers, they work to make this like basically image processing software thing where it takes like a bunch of images as it's descending down the surface and like matches it up with this catalog that it has of the 3D surface. So like it knows if it's going to hit a boulder. If it's going to hit a boulder, it will like pause itself and then back away. Otherwise, it will like kind of keep going and hazard correct, so it kind of like keeps moving itself. Like fires its engine slightly to kind of recorrect and from 200 million miles away. So it's like pretty insane how they came up with that and made it work. So and came within like I think they came within like 3 meters of where they had targeted. So like 200 million miles away, down to like this crazy precision. It's as mind blowing as like you guys' node trees that I've been seeing for Nodevember. Like I don't even know where to start. Like I look at all your just webs of craziness. It's beautiful, your results. Aaron, I'm really impressed with the cool animation you've been doing with the spheres.
It's amazing.
And Sharon as well. Yeah, you guys are mind blowing.
Oh, you've got
out of this world.
You've got a Nodevember hoodie. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
a real match.
Yay! I'm upset. Oh my god. No. I want it. Maybe next year. If they improve them, no trees, I'll get one. Oh, by the way, Curt started noding, and he made treasure tiling.
Yeah, Sharon gave me a little lesson. There was
he did good.
Mind-blowing thing. Because I was trying to explain to him to try to like teach me in a different way that he teaches other people, because I don't know if I've got something, but I can't do mental maths properly. Like I have to visualize things visually in my head. Even when I'm counting numbers, I visualize like a dice and their faces on them and stuff. So so we did it all visually, and I made sure that he was showing me all the nodes in one place so I could like see it kind of changing. But it was interesting, and I was quite happy that I did actually understand it at the end of it. So yeah, thanks for having the patience. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll do any of the prompts because I'm actually having a lot of fun making material tools, and my next video is going to be about that a bit more. But yeah, I am in the domain of it. But I want to ask you guys now that we're on day 8, right? Yeah, just double checking.
Layered.
Yeah. So, are you feeling confident that you'll make it all the way through?
You know that I'm not going to do it because again my exam was preponed to 23rd. God.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shame.
So I have to stop, and then I have to continue in December. But yeah, I'll complete everything.
All right. What about you, Aaron?
I think I will. I'm in such a weird position of being like, whenever I wake up, I'm like, oh my god, today's the day I'd burn out, because I'm spending like between 4 and 9 hours. So like the screen print one yesterday, I spent 9 hours on, And that's, I think it's just because I'm quite slow. I got like the actual shapes done fairly quickly, like within 2.5 hours. But then it's like animating everything because I'm not keyframing. I'm doing everything in shader. So it's like just getting, but also getting things to like getting the squeegee to come up and then rotate and move and then come back. And it's like, that's 6 different motions that I need to do all from map ranges. And it's like,
so basically you mean,
So impressive.
did you use one value node with frame in it?
Yeah.
God. Oh my god.
But I'm not really I'm not very mathsy. Like, I'm not bad at maths, but I don't think in maths. I just think like, I want this one to go more left. And then I make it go more left. And I'm like, it needs to go more left a bit later. So it's just like very iterative process. But then also doing
it's one of those things where you can keep tweaking until the end of time.
That's
just keep getting it closer and closer. You can move things. Move to the left 5 pixels. Now let me just put it back a bit.
The problem is, it won't look good if it is not in the right place. Okay, so I have to tweak it like around 0.001 sometimes, 0.02 sometimes. It's like, God, just work. It doesn't.
Hello, Decoded as well. He's joined.
Hi guys.
Hey Rob.
I like the merch as well.
So the Decoded.
Yeah.
I
don't think I've met you, Paul, and Decoded since I've last kind of signed off here.
Oh. Hi, James. I'm Paul. I'm in Sydney right now. I'm probably the excuse why everyone's going in an hour early today, so I really apologize for that.
It's all right.
Because otherwise it's like, what, 4 in the morning or something?
It's 6:10, but in about an hour, my kids are going to get up and I'm going to have to wrangle them to school. So, so I've got that wall waiting for me to hit at the other end. So, but we're on daylight savings time at the moment, so things will improve. And they're sort of getting to the age where I'm trying to train them. This is boring talk. It's nothing to do with Blender.
That's all right. We're always going off topic.
Like
don't worry.
Yeah.
Like 95% of the conversations are not Blender related anyway, but it's all right.
I know, but kids really
just hanging out.
Yeah, I do feel like I should pull like my logo shirt out of the cupboard just to
absolutely
just to more in line.
I should get a logo shirt.
Yeah, do you have a logo? You should make one. Make one.
No, I don't. No, I use my name and I try to make it look cool, but I should probably get on that.
Yeah, nice and fun. Good branding.
I want to make my logo using nodes, and for some reason I'm really bad at it. Yeah. I could like do for everyone else except mine.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you made mine out of nodes as well.
Name.
Yeah, I made yours. I made Renderize logo using nodes, and everything worked fine. But I couldn't make mine. It's like I'm just asking, like, I just want to hire someone to just design the logo or something. But you know, I thought, okay, let me only make it. Let it take how much of time it can. But yeah, I'm going to.
I was very happy when you did mine because it was nice to have a mathematically perfect version of the logo.
Yeah.
So like you have an equation, so no matter what happens, you can always reconstruct it. So,
yeah. First I just did it using nodes, and then he was like, "Can you write down the equations?" Like, oh, I never thought about this one, and then I wrote it down. It took around like just 3 steps of code, so it was nice.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, I don't know if anyone's noticed. I've got an extra plushie in the background here. That's the Kurzgesagt one, because they released their calendar.
Oh, nice.
Their calendar for next year.
I like the little Eevee one too.
Yeah, there we go. So. Hopefully next year's better than this year. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
So, yeah, I know we don't tend to get like political in here, but I do want to briefly mention the election because that's been interesting. Very interesting.
To say the least.
Yeah, from the perspective of a European. I mean, I've got a German friend on my server who's been like my intelligence guy, like every 10 minutes just giving an update on what was happening. But there was so much time where nothing happened. Like,
I know. Gosh.
God.
It was like a snail's pace at times. I mean, the results would trickle in like they'd release, I don't know, 1,000 votes for you know, it was like 12 hours had passed. They released 1,000 votes. They're like, we're done for the day. We'll release some more tomorrow. It's like, what's going on? And I guess for you guys, the people abroad, like, I don't know if you know how, I guess, the Electoral College works and how, like, electoral votes are allocated to the different states. It's probably super confusing. You probably learned a lot about our geography in all the states. But it's just like some random states like Nevada, for example, got a lot of attention, more than it usually would, I guess, under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
It's just, and you think like, oh, whoever wins the popular vote would win, but there's just so much more to it. It's just kind of a weird, antiquated system that just seems kind of strange at times. It gives us unneeded stress like this, where we have to wait for a week.
I find the weirdest thing about it is that you've got, because I kind of understand the Electoral College part from like well, I think I do anyway, but the weirdest part is that they all come in at different times. Like, why can some people vote later?
Yeah.
Why can't everybody just vote
this
at the
time more
same
than
time?
ever, because of the pandemic, there's so many people who voted early or voted by mail. Like, I voted by mail, actually, for Pennsylvania. So it just took so much longer for people to process everything. I think like on the order of millions of people voted early in my state. And they weren't allowed to open the envelopes until election day. So even though my ballot like arrived, I think like October 13th, I got a notification that like it was received. Like, they couldn't start processing it until November 3rd. And even then, like, there were some lawsuits and things that prevented them from opening until like this past Friday. So it's just so bizarre.
It's like a really
and then there were
sad
slowdowns with the mail too, so things were getting there later. So they made these like laws to extend when ballots could get there as long as it was postmarked by the 3rd. It was just a mess of things. And when you have like, I don't know, I think there's 150 million people voted, it's so hard to process that.
Yeah.
That was amazing turnout, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at those numbers thinking that's mad, like 70 something million votes, like for almost each, I think, really, but
74.
Yeah. But yeah, damn. Like I mean, yeah, not to pick sides, but I didn't think that many people would vote for Trump. But when you're looking at the numbers going up, you're like, oh my god, that's a lot of people. Holy damn. Hey, there's Kev.
Yeah. Oh, he's
Where's
not
the
in his
backdrop,
talk
man?
today.
Yeah, we need
Oh,
the branding.
Yeah.
There we go. Excellent.
That's better.
Yeah, we were just talking about the election.
Oh, what a great topic.
Yeah. Just saying how
We
fascinating
segued
it is.
from rendering, so we was talking about like slow things.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my god, there was a big party yesterday all over the place, so I was I was pulled into it. All socially distanced, all people wearing masks, but it was a cool party, and I can't turn down a party. So
You're a
good.
college student at heart.
We know.
Yeah.
I am. I was having trouble connecting this laptop because we have these parental control things on these devices, and this one was like blacklisted for some reason. I think somebody grabbed it and was trying to use it, and my wife was like, "Nope," and I was like, "Why can't I connect to the internet?" Oh.
All right, so Kev, have you been trying any Node stuff this month?
I have. I'm not doing the vector stuff because I'm not throwing my hat in that ring right now. I need to like really brush up on that before I like embarrass. So I was like, oh well, I was playing around because I have a job coming up where I'm gonna have to use Houdini. So I'm like, oh, you know what? So I renewed my indie license, and I was like, I wonder if I could bring some like SOP level thing into. So I mean that's Houdini terminology, but basically just take a node based procedural project from Houdini and render it in Blender, because if not, I'm going to have to buy Redshift. And as much as I love the idea of Redshift, like if I can render in Blender, then I have even more control right now. So I tested it out on like this stupid like pencil. So I entered for pencil for drawing.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I did like a pencil drawing. So I grabbed some character off Mixamo, and I brought it into Houdini, and then I made him like made out of pencils, and all the pencils flying around and flipping and stuff. And I was like, can I bring this into Blender? So I was testing it, and I was like, yes, finally, I could get like the pencil with all the different shaders on it, and bring that into Blender, and then have all the materials, listed, so that I could just in Blender I could reassign. So I can go through and assign the different, use the Blender shader, which is really powerful, as you guys no, and just run it. And I was like, this works. This is awesome. So I was able to render something because Mantra is super slow. Like it is like a beautiful render engine, but it is one of the slowest render engines. Like once you're like used to using Eevee or even Cycles, and you go to Mantra, you're just like, what? Wow, this is gonna suck. Even though it looks beautiful, it's like if you have a render farm, awesome. If you're doing it on one machine, oh boy.
So I have no experience with it or Houdini for that matter, really. But I would like to try it someday. But Sverchok is first on the list.
Sverchok looks awesome, but I was blown away. I was like, it works. So, but you can only do that with the indie license, so you can't do that with Apprentice.
Oh no!
What's your process
we can actually do that, right? I mean, I was able to export OBJs.
OBJs.
You can't export animated.
Yeah. So if you do like, I guess if you do a series of OBJs and you bring in a series of OBJs, it might work. But Alembic is better.
Yeah.
So is that what you were using? You were coming out in Alembic.
Yeah, I used an Alembic ROP and I exported it all. There's a number of steps you got to go through to get all the materials listed and everything listed, and I have to do a video on it because it's really cool, but it totally works.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, you should definitely do some more Houdini-based stuff. Like, I've been trying to learn the basics of Houdini this week, and the tutorials are, like, really, really lacking, to be honest. Like, there's definitely space there for someone to come in who actually knows what they're doing and just take it straight away. I mean, even on the Houdini website, there's they're not too bad, but I was looking at very beginner level tutorials, and immediately the first thing that he did, he didn't explain how to do it. He just went, I'm going to add this, and he didn't say like, and this is the button to do it, or this is the options or whatever. He just did the thing. I'm like, that's not a good sign when you've lost me at step one. You've already like assumed that I know how to do something on an absolute beginner tutorial. And they're all kind of like that. Like, there's a lot of terminology and stuff to get your head around as well, which doesn't help because people just kind of throw that around, assuming you know what they're talking about, and I don't.
Yeah, it really is. Like I put on my educator hat and I went back to my notes that I took when I got my graduate degree in adult education. I'm like, how would I had to use that because I'm like, this is such a crazy topic, and it's being explained in like, I mean, it's being explained to people like they've been using this forever. It's like, you don't take a driving student and throw them into a Bugatti Chiron and go, just drive, like, so, but that's how these things they're expecting like that you've been driving forever, so I think Houdini caters. It's always catered to like this, not to sound elitist, because it's not like an elitist thing. It's just it caters to people who have been doing 3D forever, and like who want to make the jump into like specific like visual effects type stuff, or now they're going after the motion graphics type industry. But you're right. Like the terminology is so arcane. It's like if you just throw that at a beginner, just like even somebody who just wants to do like effects work, and and learning Houdini would probably be the best option. They're lost. You're right. They're lost at like the first sentence. So I've been playing with the idea of doing Houdini tutorials for a very, very long time on the beginner level, because honestly, like I will never say that I'm an expert in Houdini. I could honestly, for 30 years from now, I'll look back at this and go, yep, I'm still not an expert at Houdini because it's just so deep. But yeah, there's definitely like a few things to learn that you can get up to speed with and start doing stuff.
Sounds like a job for Houdini binge.
Oh my god. No, I gotta drop that binge. No, it's all right. No, I gotta figure it out, because right now my channel, that's another topic, is my channel is I use Blender in my channel, and I'm like, I have to rebrand if I'm gonna start going in that direction too.
Kev CG. That's just
I'll
Kev
just be like Kev B. I'll just do Kev B CG. Like that's just, it's so simple. I'm just gonna do that. I'll just use a CG. I've been using CG forever in my emails and things for like 20 years now, so whatever.
Dawned on me what the CG is in Kev CG.
Really?
Did it take that long?
I'm loving your face right now. It's so genius.
I thought it was all the last name,
No, CG is not my last name.
Oh my god. No, I get it.
That would be like Vietnamese, like NG. for
The percentage of like online creators in our field who have CG in their username is crazy. I think on a proportional
really is.
amount.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I purposely avoided
come
that.
on. To be fair, it's at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
To be fair, you're right.
I didn't know what I really wanted to do, so what better than to use your own name, you know? So
Yeah.
same with Paul in
I know. I just
Yeah.
like to maintain
Alright.
some level of privacy because the internet is such a crazy place.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like, whatever. It's gonna catch up to me
Yeah,
someday
true.
anyway, so I might as well just throw it out. Oh.
Yeah.
We all
I
know what
haven't
you
got
did last summer.
that comment yet. Like, I've got the letters C, G, and I in my surname, and someone hasn't pulled me up and saying, you've just got those letters in your name because you just want CG in there.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
Clearly spare letters.
Oh no.
Like, I would just that would be a type of comment I would just totally blow off. Like, I wouldn't even give it any credence. I would just be like, nope, delete, gone. I don't care. Or maybe I would just leave it just to like, look at this go.
So it is very interesting seeing what kinds of comments other people get in this server when we share them in here.
Oh yeah, those are so crazy.
Yeah, like,
It really is. I was just thinking about that.
like how Agniv gets a lot about the way he speaks and stuff, but there's nothing wrong with. Like, I think, like, damn, is there really must
I think
be
his
some
accent
kind of,
is really mild.
yeah, it is. I think
Yeah.
there really must be some kind of like underlying like racism going on with like Indian creators, because yeah, on the spectrum of like accent strengths, Agniv is quite mild, as you say, and you think, wow, like what are other people getting then, like in terms of comments? Because if that's what he's getting,
Oh, I do got one with because of how I speak, saying like, you got a really strong accent. Where are you from? I was like, I'm from India.
Yeah.
Oh
I always
god.
tell people, man, when you can speak someone's native language as well as they can speak English, then you can talk.
yeah,
Then you can say anything you want about their accent, but until then, shut up.
yeah,
You have nothing.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
can't-
it was recently on one of my live streams though. It's like, oh, where are you from? It's like, oh, I'm from India.
That's like benign. That's like, oh yeah, you got an accent. I wonder where that's from. You know, that's kind of
Yeah.
benign. When somebody's like, you should learn English better, you should speak better, or whatever. It's like, oh, really?
It's like, well, you should learn to understand other accents better then. Like, it goes
Exactly.
both
Like
ways.
you should learn to understand accents.
I
Exactly.
love the way that Curtis, you responded to one of them, and it was like, "Oh, is it my turn now to make a comment about your appearance?" That was
yeah.
great.
Yeah, that was someone who
That
said, like, oh yeah, that's all well and good, like on a video, but why do you look like you're about to burst into tears in your thumbnail? And I said, oh, that's cool. Is it my turn to have a go at your appearance now? Like, can I do that? Is that something I can do? And they said, oh no, you don't want to look at my ugly mug. So they backed down, but I was prepared.
That was funny.
I'd like to see an Australian tutor just go full strine. Do you know what strine is?
No.
Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, okay.
Try that, but with a lot of really high impact swearing.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd love to see a tutorial like that. That would just crack me up.
You should go for it.
CG
We would
Bogan,
watch it just for
I'm going to keep
CG
it right
Bogan.
now. Yes. That's what I'm going to go with.
I will say something. Me and CG Matter had an idea, and I guess I can share it because it's not going to happen now. But we had an idea to make a secret new tutorial channel together at one point, and the joke behind it would be that we would both put on completely different accents and never show our face, and it'd be like making joint videos and try and make it, even doing a little bit of modulation just to make it sound different, and see how long it would take people to figure out that it was us. Now, of course, we never went through with it, but shortly after that, he did his Russian accent video for a laugh, which I don't know if anyone saw, but I think that would have
Yeah,
been
that was
funny
amazing.
anyway.
The lava one.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. Yeah,
That one was funny.
but yeah,
Yes.
that was an
Controversial.
idea. Stephen Scott gets a lot of comments about his accent as well, but he's deeply Scottish.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I love when people are like, "Oh, I can't understand your Irish accent."
Oh no! What's his response to that though? Like,
Most of them are so sweet actually. Like they're like, like, can you read like a story, like a bedtime story for us, like something like that?
oh
Like, that was
Yeah,
funny.
exactly. Like it's cool. Like there's something where you just have to get used to the dialect, and once you're used to the dialect, it's like you don't even hear the accent anymore.
Oh, I think my favorite one was someone's like, "Are you from New Zealand?" And I said, I just had to reply to that one. I said, no, I'm from a lesser-known island just west of New Zealand. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's called Australia.
Yeah, I saw that comment.
Yeah. But it is
funny.
interesting how like the accents can sound quite similar because it's got similar. I don't have a word for it, but like a twang on the accents for Australia and New Zealand, but they are
Slightly
definitely
different.
identifiable. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has this, but I have been to Scotland before, and it's so difficult not to like slip into the accent when you're surrounded by everyone speaking it. Like
That'd be so fun. I would love it.
I
I'd
remember
get called out for it, but man,
but it's so tempting because when I was there, I was trying not to do it because I knew my mum would make fun of me. But like everyone around you is just so deep in it, and you're like, I can do it, I can do it. But no,
you end up picking up little turns of phrase as well, like "nay bother," and it's like, I didn't say that before. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've started saying "we" quite a lot, like as small. I'll be back in a wee bit.
Yeah.
So, Josh, how have you been doing?
Busy, very busy. That's why I haven't been on. But now I have a lot more free time, so it's mainly school, and the last course we were working on took up like 12 plus hours a day every day. So I was just pretty much grinding for weeks, but kind of gotten some downtime now. So
Are you happy with how the course came out in the end?
yeah, dude, it's been on Blender Market top page for a while now, and we were working pretty closely with Jerry on because it was a hard ops course, right? So we were kind of just cooperating in terms of getting promo towards hard ops and towards our course because they pretty much go hand in hand. And I love Jerry to death, but it's updated so much that it's like there's no one place to just find good info on the tools unless you use the tools like every day like I do. So
yeah,
kind of filled that gap. But yeah, I was happy with the performance. It did pretty well. So I think the next plan is we've been studying game assets a lot, so kind of getting into that now.
I'd be interested to hear about people's experiences with asset creation and stuff like that. It's something that I've had an interest in a while, in terms of like modular sets and creating assets for like generative modeling, I guess. What's your experiences with that? I mean, does it touch on nodal stuff at all? I mean, I'm imagining it could. I know there's a lot of background with coding and things like that, but what's your experience with it?
Yeah, well, I never traditionally did game assets really, but my partner, you and I are working with a game dev, Russell Morahan. He's making a game called Alas Astra. It's coming like next year or something. So we're both going to work on models for his game, but I know like close to nothing about Unreal. So he's doing all the Unreal sides of things. And, you know, we're way more experienced in the Blender area. So in terms of just getting the game assets optimal, which I mean, once Unreal 5 comes out, it won't matter. But for the next year, you know, optimization is important. So we're trying to figure out like the best way to combine trim sheets, baking, bevels, because we found that baked bevels are, well, at least according to the guy we're working with, baked bevels are way worse than single segment bevels with weighted normals. So there was like a lot to learn, but modular assets, like you mentioned, we're actually quite interested in that because you know you make one and you just tile it across the entire map and you're done. So yeah, we're probably going to work with him on kind of designing those because he's kind of more familiar in that field. But you know, once you do enough concept renders, it's like I would kind of want to get into a new area now, and it's still hard surface, so why not?
I've had a fair bit of experience with modular type content for game dev because I used to sell assets for Unity before they.
Yeah, your old videos, right?
Oh yeah. The very first one was building a modular sci-fi corridor, but
yeah,
it depends what you want to do with the content. Because if you're generating stuff, you want to make sure that. Well, okay, so there's so many caveats here because there's so many ways to design it. So, for example, you can go for like a tile set system, of course, where you have pieces that fit into the same size cell wherever you go. So you know that if you pick like 0, 0, 0 is a start position, then like 0, 1, 0 is the next one, then you can just place down a piece regardless of what it is, and it will fit together perfectly. And you'll see that with old video games as well. I don't know if you've ever played around with like old game editors where like they will have like a corridor, which is just like a full circle of content, and then they'll have a corner, which is just like one sliver of a mesh, but then the rest of the cell is empty, and it's just to make up for keeping up with the cell structure. Not all games use systems like that because like you can do something much more procedural with like ray casting to detect if there's space to grow things out. So like if you were, say for example, trying to build content to make like a corridor or like an interior environment or a world, it really depends on what you're trying to do, because even stuff with like external environments with terrains is very different, because you could have like all these different splat height map type stuff, but your main interest there is just to make sure that the seams of these things come blending together. So instead of it being just like a strictly like integer based place thing, then you need to go onto like a more mesh level and start blending things in. So yeah, it really depends what you want to do.
I've always seen it as sort of a very simplistic thing where it's almost like greebling. You remember from the Star Wars thing where he sort of cast maybe 4 or 6 different random things, but you just turn them 90 degrees and it comes out pretty random. And sometimes it's an insanely simple method, but even doing it in 3D, you can get an amazing array of randomness just with that modular type of, okay, let's just rotate this 90 degrees and bang it up against the next one. I mean, yeah, after a while it gets a bit samey, and that's why, you know, procedural stuff like adding shaders on top of those systems just to randomize noise always sort of smooths out that sameness. But yeah, the things you were talking about, just like my mind's just going.
Yeah, Greeble generation is interesting. I know Mark Kingsnorth has done some stuff about that. He's another add-on developer for Blender. Like we talk every now and again. Might be worth looking him up because he's also done the nebula generator and a shape generator and a curves to mesh add-on as well. But he's got like a Greeble and panel generator. But if you're placing pre-made objects like kitbash pieces on another surface, I guess one of the things you want to consider is making sure they don't intersect, because that might look weird. It might look fine from a distance. In fact, that will probably decrease the repetitiveness, because if you can allow for intersections, you'll get weird shapes where they interact with each other. But if you don't want that, then you need a way of detecting collisions or proximity. Proximity is easy to detect if the shapes are spherical, because, you know, at one point to another point, if you measure a distance, that's like a spherical area, isn't it? So you can then tell them to move further apart. But if it's a weird shape, like you've got an L-shaped Greeble, then it's really weird, because you could like take the longest distance away and do that, but then you've got lots of free space. Anyway, complex. So in game engines, it's easier because you have, say, collision meshes, which typically have their own scripts, and then the game engine can give you data to see whether or not it's colliding with another like collision object. Alternatively, you have raycasting, where you can pick a point in space, cast a ray in a direction, and then you can get a Boolean value back, so a true or false of whether it's intersected with something. So then you can do constant checks like that around the shape to see if there's anything else nearby, and if there is, then you can move it. But in Blender, for example, these two things aren't really possible. They're a little bit trickier. You can get around it with like particle systems in a way, but even then, particle collisions are a tricky thing. When I did the city scatter tool, to sort out buildings not interacting with each other, I had 2 methods. One was to do the grid system, where there were cells. So a building was never larger than a cell. So you could put cells next to each other and you would know they would never intersect. The other method, which was a circular one, I just did a proximity thing. So what we're talking about, circular, where a building should not expand past that circular range. So you know that whatever you make, it's never going to intersect. So yeah, there's so many ways you can go about it. But yeah, it's just a lot of brain mess to think about.
The approach that I'd had was from a completely different angle, which was sort of old school comic creation. So like Josh, my background is more comics illustration based, and I create a shader that makes things look like comics, specifically for Blender. But I'm getting a lot of interest from people with, you know, in Unreal Engine and Unity and even Clip Studio Paint, who say, if you've got these assets for these programs, I will pay you this much a month on Patreon. I'm like, yeah, I could use that. So yeah, that sort of exporting for other areas is really interesting to me, especially when sort of going into things like game creation. I came across one artist who's using Unreal Engine to create base assets for illustrations, which is a really unique and interesting thing to do, because he's using that kind of game asset engine stuff to quickly bash out an environment that looks amazing, and that he could just sort of render and just go, okay, there's my scene, and now I can put my characters in front of that scene, and just move on with the next panel. And I really like that idea. But I'll stop now. So yes.
Well, that's why I like the modularity behind it, because I need to figure out more of those intricacies, because you have to get things to connect seamlessly. I assume delete the faces on the sides that are connecting, whatever. But I've seen videos, like especially Curtis, I think that was one of the first series I saw of yours on your channel, was that Unity stuff. You just make like one asset and 5 minutes in Blender, throw a trim sheet on it, and you just sketch out and you have those models forever.
Yeah.
So that's I pretty much got everything else down pat because I've been studying a lot. But in terms of just getting those types of practical modular assets and getting them to work in Unreal, which is where the guy I'm working with will come in and help me with that, it doesn't seem too bad. It's just like a lot to wrap your head around. So
yeah, there's a lot going on with the procedural building of different environments and things. It seems to be the future, but it's having a slow go catching on. Well, I know that there's an interest. Side Effects is really pushing into that area of procedural world creation. And there's some stuff that I've been doing that's looking really, really, really fun once you get it set up. But just building factories that can output all kinds of different geometry and all kinds of different modular assets and things. But yeah, it's really cool. It's an area worth watching.
I think it's one of those things as well that people think, oh, like if it's procedural, you can do it really quickly. But
yeah,
and you can once the system is built.
Exactly.
Which is the main thing, and people don't realize that, like, oh, you're going to need 3 weeks to build the system. Like, it's fine after that. I can build you hundreds of assets every day once I've got it in place. But it's going to take me a few weeks to actually like make the thing that makes the things.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's
why proceduralism is so heavy on the front end. It really is.
Just for an example, like I never spend more than a few days on a project now, like in a row, because my patience has just, it's decaying, my patience. But the space station generator took me 2 straight weeks to get working.
Wow.
And I went for about 9 different types of procedure, like in algorithms and stuff. And that, as I said, if you do buy that at any point, I put a document together where I literally wrote up all my notes into a Word document so you can read it, so you can see day by day what happened, just in case anyone was interested. Once you've done that, like, if anyone wants space stations, there you go. Like, you can have an infinite number that you like, add your own pieces, whatever. But it does take 2 weeks to get that made. So yeah.
I'm trying to approach it from an end user.
No, I was going to ask if you could use EasyBPY on like photo scanned assets of leaves and bushes and similar looking objects to, or EasyBPY to combine them and have them only lay on sort of intersect, but also use a Boolean operation to cut out where they intersect, so that the mesh isn't.
Yeah, EasyBPY hasn't been designed to do anything like that yet, but yeah, sure, with Python you could. And if it's possible to do it with Python and Blender, then we can simplify it with EasyBPY. So yeah, anything that you can imagine possibly doing, we can simplify in some way. So yeah, in the future maybe.
What were you saying, Paul? Thanks. Yeah, I was just thinking. That conversation got me thinking about generating photorealistic or semi-photo scanned assets and just creating.
If there's any procedure that, or any workflow that anyone does in Blender that they think, oh god, this is tedious, just write it down to me, because I can write you a script quickly, like, to do it. I mean, even with
you shot yourself in the foot, Curtis.
I'm making a list already.
a lot of it I've already done, right? Well, let me put it this way. So if you wanted a script that generates you a sci-fi habitation module, like an interior, like a dungeon, like from a video game, Well, I haven't written that, but I also kind of have, because the space station generator is like a 3-dimensional version of that. Like a building interior is just like one flat plane, X and Y, cells together connected, done, right? The space station generator is that, but in an extra dimension. So I just need to take the same script and knock off a dimension, and that's it. That's done. So you'll find that there's a lot of these patterns of logic that you can just recycle to use for other workflows.
I like that idea, that sort of those patterns of logic that you just recycle. I mean, I guess that's the sort of the basis of iterative modeling, isn't it? You know, you sort of start off with a root node, and then every layer above that adds a layer of complexity, but it's got a random seed. Am I getting the terminology right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I come at this from like an end user perspective. What is the end user going to see? Are they going to see something that says, hey, here is a model with 4 different presets that you can randomize, and you can generate a city very, very quickly just by going either random seed, or you can select floor 1 is going to look like this, floor 2 is going to look like this, and so on. And from that perspective, they don't need to know the behind the scenes. We've done the legwork for them, and that's ultimately what we charge for, you know, when we're selling the model or selling the service. And from an end user perspective, it's sometimes really difficult to get right, because I guess that's where we sort of rely on a lot of feedback too, you know, whether it's a crappy comment on YouTube or someone who just gets back to us and says, I tried to use it this way, but is there any way to do A, B, and C? And that sort of just always gets you thinking, you know, I see, they're approaching it from this angle. And, you know, sort of getting it right for the end user is just this endless task, but it's ultimately sort of what I try to get right or close to right.
It's just difficult how you package it. I think that's the main, like, building the system is obviously a challenge in and of itself, but if that's what you're specializing in, then that's what you do. But it's like, how do you, as somebody who is like very literate in these things, package it in a way? Because I'm always tempted to put like 40 different options on the front of something and be like, well, of course you want to control everything. Like, I've made it like this. But then somebody coming to it is like, I just want the color. Like, I just want a color and a randomize button, and that's it. It's like, well,
yeah, I've had an experience just like this where I'm trying to work out, I'm racking my brain. So like, let's say I just want to generate a skyscraper, a single asset. And I've been doing this for Clip Studio Pro, which isn't a program which I know that a lot of people listening to this or you guys use, but it's generally to make comics. But the concept's the same, and that is you get an asset and you can assign variations to it, and they all come in a drop-down menu. Do you assign 3 presets and then let the end user just go, but above these 3 ones, I can then change the color, I can then swap out the individual assets, I can then customize it further? Or do you put in 40 different presets on the same model, and then you just get a very, you know, heavy file that this person has to import and wait to load before they can use it, you know? And it's always this toss up between those two, you know, because I love that. Like you said, Aaron, you know, oh yes, I want to add this version and this version. And what if someone wants this version with a tiny bit and an antenna and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you know what, by limiting it, you can sometimes get the end user to be a little bit more creative. It's ultimately sort of what I want to push.
Yeah, like I know that other people would have noticed this as well, but when you are building tools and stuff, and especially like node groups as well, you reach a point where you can see all the directions where you could take it, or like all the possibilities for like patterns or whatever. This applies to code and visual stuff as well, but you just have to define the boundary of where you're going to stop and also where you're going to give users control. But knowing where to define that boundary is really one of the difficult parts, because there's like a phrase I like, which is like, there are no solutions, only compromises. And like every solution that you choose will have a positive and a negative as well. So yeah.
So that's exactly what happened with Nodevember as well. I want to add more details, but I was like, let's just stop. It took like 14 hours to make the previous one because I was learning something new which I haven't really tried to till today. So I was asking people, I was like taking help from others, and it was amazing. Like it was not the best. I thought I could animate it, but then, you know, rendering, and I have to give up my laptop for a day or something just to get it rendered. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So one still frame. So I kinda extended the time limit what I had, basically, like around like 5 hours extra. What I wanted to complete it within the limit. So I have to start drawing boundaries.
What is your process
been-
like when it comes down to getting those nodes? I mean, do you just go nuts with creating nodes and then try to simplify down, or do you just like keep adding and adding and adding?
Depends on, like, Aaron always simplifies it. He knows what he is doing, so he has these tiny little node groups which he keep using again and again. So I on the other side, I could use node groups, but I don't, because I just want to see everything just piling up. It kind of like pleases me. Like, oh, this far I got. So the previous one, it had like around like 10 frame slots, which was like this big, and if I could simplify it into node groups, it would have been like around like this little box. Like, I can simply just put like just 9 node groups and everything is done. So yeah, and framing them and everything is something which helps, and node groups is something which helps. But sometimes I kind of like drag a node from very bottom to the other corner, so it kind of get tedious a lot of times. Yeah.
One thing in just that about dragging nodes across your entire graph. In Grasshopper, you can make noodles transparent or dotted, and it's just like if you have something which is sending information from over here and something else which is receiving it over there, and you can color code them, you can do whatever to make it obvious that it's transferring information. But in Blender, you just end up with like, oh my god, like in the fruit tart shader that I did, there's a section of it which is just like solid white from all of the noodles crossing each other, and it's like, I don't know what's going on in there.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I was very happy when Sharon showed me that you can, when like if you shift right click and like make a little node dot, you can actually label them. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I was very happy. I was like, yes, thank you. Like I can finally, because you can bring it over and have it right next to it and say, okay, that's where it's coming from.
Commenting node trees.
It can actually be developed a little more, actually, for the noodles. They can do a little more. Like, this output, we can actually color code them and maybe make like a group output outside the groups, okay? So you can simply use them to control everything. Like this output, you can just input to some other node, and you can duplicate the node and take it as an input for other nodes, which would actually be good. It's like just functions using it different ways, different locations. Please, Blender developers, let's do it.
There's so many things they can add and change. Like, I mean, we're already spoiled to death with how good the software is already, but it's just getting better. And what I said in my Nodevember video recently, that what this month and these challenges do is it just draws more and more attention to it. So, like, I mean, they're only going to know that we want this if we tell them.
You really do stress test it. It's like what CG was talking about with not being able to pull the normals where he wants them in the node tree.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so true. Like when I'm doing stuff in Sverchok, I'm always pulling things like that at a specific point. It's like, I need to know the face normals here so that I can do another calculation. And then if we're stacking displacement, then you're going to have to like manually work out normals. And it's just, it gets really messy trying to work all of those things out. So they should just be like, if you're doing so many like iterations of things as well.
That's because you have to duplicate, if at all, if you want normals for like a SDF or something, like, it's a really big node group. So you have to duplicate it 3 times, and you have to connect the input to 3 times and combine them into one single vector, which is really complex. Like one node group is enough to make it slow, and you have 3 now, which is, so normal calculation is really hard. And
that's so that you can measure a distance across a very short distance, and then you can calculate the normals from that.
But still,
I think I've got one element of a shader that I do where I try to emulate like a crosshatch pattern, and it's essentially one node group that controls a texture based on camera angle, light proximity, and power. And then it's got to be duplicated 3 times, but set off at 90 or 45 degrees so that you can etch in, 2 or 3 more cross-hatching steps. But it really slows down. And I just keep, going back and just going, what if I put the rotation node here? Can I just get an instance of that? Or can I, cheat it somehow? No, it's just got to be one node group duplicated 4 times.
And sometimes we do that with noise textures, like you need to do it. And if you have 3 noise textures, enough, my laptop's going to fry omelets. But I need 8 of them.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't.
I've been
I just
thinking
can't.
recently, because I've done a bit more work on EasyBPY over the last week. I've been having discussions with 3D Bubble, who's someone else that's been contributing, about mesh generation with code. Because obviously you can do it with Python and Blender, but it is very convoluted. I understand it now because when I was away in August, like I really sat down with it and learned how to create shapes from scratch, like actually from scratch, just data, arrays, indexes, whatever. And it was really interesting, but you have to get so algorithmic with it. And that's not fun, and it's not easy for people. And there's no way to make it easy with EasyBPY, which is a weird thing to say. And the whole point of EasyBPY is making commands to simplify it down, but it just doesn't seem like it will work. However, I'm looking at Sverchok now, because we have commands that make it very easy to make and connect material nodes in EasyBPY. It's very easy to get that data, and it's very easy to connect them. So theoretically, it should be very easy to create Sverchok nodes, because we can interface with the add-on. So we'll be able to get all the node data, plug things in very easily. And because of abstraction, say that you had like patterns or tools that you built in Sverchok to make some easy parametric objects, we can turn those into commands, single commands in EasyBPY. So if you wanted to build a shape, you could just string these commands together and you could build something extraordinarily complex in like one line of code if you really wanted.
With Sverchok as well, you've got the script node in there. And you can define, with not very much data, entire meshes just on like, and I'm not sure if it uses a different structure to the way that it processes data, because I'm pretty sure it's all Python based, isn't it?
Should be.
But they've got like, you just define your sockets and then you say like, okay, these are the vertices, these are their positions, this is a list of edges, this is a list of polygons.
All right.
And then that's kind of it. So in terms of interfacing with Sverchok, that might be a really optimal way to start generating stuff.
Yeah. Thing is, I'm not sure how detecting add-ons works with Python and Blender, because I mean, I know HardOps does it. If you look at the user preferences, it tells you whether or not there are other add-ons connected. So I don't know whether it would be viable having commands to interface with Sverchok in the main module, or to do a separate version of the module that people can use specifically if they want to use that. But it's interesting to play around with. I'll leave that until I've done more work with the material nodes, but I mean, everything about it is viable and possible. So maybe I'll do that, because that'll be so much of an easier way to build meshes from scratch than doing it just from math alone.
Like there's this waffle node that Aaron was talking about previously, and it's not exactly a waffle, but if you could generate meshes in such a way that which generate patterns, like with sliders, and more controllable, that would be nice. Like you can do it with shaders, like node groups, but like we can convert the node groups into like inbuilt nodes using some scripts, which Iyad was sharing with us recently. And in the same way, if we could do that with meshes in Sverchok, that would be nice.
That's interesting. Can you create node groups in Sverchok?
Technically, they've just added node groups. I don't know if they're actually functional, but they are a node.
Okay.
So you can add them. There's something else which is like a monad, which is it sort of allows you to use it as a group or a loop.
Ooh, okay.
So
yeah. Any logic, any conditional logic in Sverchok?
Yeah. You can do loads. You can do like full machine learning with it.
Nice.
Yeah. You can build neural networks and stuff.
Good. Okay, well that sounds exactly up my alley. I don't know why I'm waiting so long to play with it. I guess it's one of those things where like you want to be in the right mood, but that's just rubbish. That's one thing that I've always wanted with shader nodes, is some kind of conditional logic, especially for building like artistic tools with it. And what I mean by that is to say type checking as well. So say if I've plugged in a color ramp to an input, I want to say, okay, well, if there's specifically a color ramp, follow this path. If there's just a basic RGB value, follow this path instead, and like detect stuff that way and break it down. So almost like switching, but without any weird workarounds. I mean, I know you can do logic, like general Boolean logic with math, but I don't want to have to do weird little things just to make that work.
Yeah, that makes sense. it was just like switch conditions, switch conditions in programming.
Yep.
If it's this case, then you do this or this, do that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could do it with geometry as well. Like if you're applying a material to a certain piece of geometry, it'll only have some attributes depending on the geometry you're applying it to.
Yes.
Like sometimes if you build a shader that's, I don't know, got a layer of dust on top or whatever, sometimes I want to use that material again, but it doesn't make sense for it to be on one surface. So it'd be really nice if, instead of having to remake the whole thing again and decide which ones need to have the dust on it and which ones don't or whatever, if it would just automatically, if I could build that into the shader at the start and say, okay, if it has these attributes, then don't add it.
Yeah.
That would be a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I reuse shaders a lot and I end up with like 9 or 10 different versions of the same ones in the scene. Just for little problems like that, like, oh, this shouldn't have rust in it or whatever. But everything else about the shade is fine, so then I end up with a duplicate just with all that took out of it.
Yeah.
And
I use,
you know what it's like sometimes figuring out which part is like the rust part or whatever. It takes so long. It'd be like, why couldn't I just build this in?
Rust 2 0001.
Oh, I will say I'm putting a command into EasyBPY to convert suffixes in Blender, because sod.001, I'm so bored of that now. Because everything I do is always underscore number. So I'm writing a function to do that to all the data in the blend file, just like that. So yeah.
Can we do that name.light? Like lights all having the suffixes dot light.
Yeah, that's all possible. Yeah, anything you want is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming up with naming conventions on larger projects is a nightmare in Blender.
I've just done a function I showed Sharon as well that organizes your outline for you. So if you have a mess of a scene and there's like you haven't organized anything, just type in organize_outliner brackets into the Python console, and it just automatically puts everything into its own collections by category. So you have cameras, lights, objects, all of that.
Oh, I need that.
Yeah,
I need that so much.
It's not in the module yet, but it's there. I just need to do some more condition checking because at the moment it breaks if there's a weird type that it doesn't recognize. But that'll be fixed.
I'm not sure if this function is there. Like I'm not really sure if you made this function, but make sure that put all the objects which are parented to one collection. That would be nice as well.
Right. Okay. So so any objects.
So like, is there any hierarchies?
With
so things want to take their children with them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Naturally.
So into different collections.
Yeah.
There are like 5 hierarchies and 5 different collections. That would be nice.
Yeah, I might have to do a whole suite of organization commands then, because there are so many ways that you can interpret like how you want to organize your scene.
Yeah.
I found one of those for the command line for organizing folders on my computer. Cluttered desktops and all.
Yeah.
And it's really a game changer.
Yes.
My desktop is filled with Nodevember stuff right now. It's halfway through. And I don't want to like organize it right now. I'm just lazy. I don't have time.
Yeah, you just create one folder and dump everything in there.
Yeah,
Oh, my desktop's clean. It's like, no, it's really not.
Straight in the recycle bin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a folder on my desktop called desktop, and then in that folder there's like a folder called shortcuts and a folder called like random files and stuff. So whenever something appears on the actual desktop, I just drag it into the desktop folder and then into the appropriate folder in there. So it's just
I did that for a long time too.
Yeah.
It's only one extra click and it keeps everything clean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can just turn off desktop icons, and then
I do that
then
most
it's
of the time.
completely clear.
If it's
like
not
that,
there, if I don't see it, it's not there.
I use a search bar more than clicking the icons. Like I'll just press Windows key and just type Blender and just open it. Most of the time, 90% of the time.
I've just got
Because I can't find
button on my mouse that opens Blender, and I don't need anything else. So
What if already Blender is running and if you press the button again mistakenly?
just add
It'll
some new
open
one.
another copy of Blender.
You just keep
Yeah,
on
you can
going.
program it.
On my
Nice.
on my left side here on my desktop, I have a folder of shortcuts, and I call it the lookup folder. So because like it's annoying when you have to look through your hard drives to get to the same space every time, especially if you're doing lots of different projects, I can click on the lookup, then click on videos, and it skips to my like H drive folder where I do my YouTube videos. So it's a very quick way to get into there without having to go all the way back through.
It's just somewhere you save all of your shortcuts, your like directory shortcuts.
Yeah, just anywhere that like I feel like I would be going regularly, I put it in the lookup folder. Just a shortcut.
That's a really good idea. I
That's
usually
good,
just save them all to the quick favorites bar.
Oh, right.
But it's got to the point now where it's like it's not quick because there's so many of them. It's getting ridiculous. I have a really bad habit of like starting a project and then moving on to something else, and then I start another one, and then I've got like the decoded folder, the 50 gig test folder, the like all these ridiculous ones, all the recordings and stuff like that. And now it's like there's nothing quick about it.
I have an experiments folder where if I just want to play with something but I have no idea where it's going to go, I will name the folder inside the experiments folder the date. And I was thinking, oh, well, that'll be a handy way to like look for it. But now it's just so much of a mess. Because like if you want to go back to it, you're like, well, I swear it had a 20 and then it had like a this afterwards. So you're trying to find the right one and you just have to go through this long list of numbers to find it. I'm like, oh no.
Well, guys, it's been fun. I've got to go as usual. But yeah, keep the conversation going, and I'll be sort of catching this when it gets published.
Awesome.
Okay, have a good day, man.
Thanks for coming.
Enjoy.
Wonderful already.
And now again, we take off our human skins.
I feel bad for all the Australians in here. We're like torturing them with this time.
I know.
So
It's like
early.
5 a.m. over there, 6. I don't remember, but
Yeah,
too early for me.
I miss Markham's morning grunts.
When he's just like
So exhausted every time he gets on the camera.
Yeah, he just comes on.
He was live streaming today, and he was like, he'll try to come to the BlenderNest. I don't think so. He just woke. He woke up.
Yeah.
You guys, have you seen his Screw Nodevember video?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
yeah.
He was giving updates. He was giving updates every time. I was like, it's over, but this is the test one. This is not the final one. It's like, what?
Oh yeah, he's very good with that. It's an animated
nice.
short. Because
Remember that it was exact conversation between me and him in the voice call.
yeah,
That was
it's like,
made it more funny.
but how does it work? And then you explain, he's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
I pretend I understand.
Yeah, we got people coming from all different angles here, man. It's awesome. Like, Nodevember takes over, and everybody, wants to do this cool procedural node stuff. But there's all this other stuff going on too. You look at Twitter, there's still people putting out stuff that's not Nodevember related at all.
I mean, everyone looks for like the top people all the time, like Luca Root, Aaron now, and Simon, and all these people. But there are so many good artists. Like, I can't even imagine how they did it yet. Though I know some stuff which is going on over there. They're like, everyone is just boosting up so fast. Whoever started, it's amazing to see like many people. Like, I think last time it was like 291 people participated in November.
Oh, really?
This time I think around 400. Yeah, they did.
Wow.
291 participants.
I'm really amazed at like the standard this year, because last year everybody was doing like just like shader balls, and it's the key difference in terms of like node functions that we've got this time is that we've got map ranges now. But before you could still use like divide and add and things, and then like generate your own map range that way. And obviously the people who were kind of at the top last time, like Hans, his work is incredible, and Simon, Luca,
Simon,
like
Luca is like only environment shaders.
Yeah,
that
he's
is
just
like
doing well.
completely rematched.
That's the
That's a
flex. That's a proper flex.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
where
like,
this is all
I
came
tried
from,
to
to be
be
honest. It's like it took
yeah.
me completely by surprise. Last year, like you said, there was a handful of like the vector displacement type, like really impressive ones, like with the animations and stuff. And I did one or two of them last year, and then this year was coming up, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably do some Nodevember stuff. And then I saw what you guys are making. I'm like, oh, fuck that shit. Like, I'm not embarrassed myself here. This is ridiculous.
And,
like, where did all these guys come from who could just do all this stuff?
And
like, this is unreal.
I was just wanted to say that in my next video, like, I do try and capture the sentiment that a lot of people have here of like hatred for the people doing Nodevember. I think I called it a node waving narcissistic vanity Twitter fest.
I feel so attacked.
Yeah.
Yes.
CG said that in his video when he was fronting that he was going to do like a video a day on doing this stuff, and he called it some.
Yeah.
I can't remember how he described it, but it was like I laughed for like 10 minutes straight.
Yeah.
I was like, it came off kind of mean sounding, but it was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, But you know what? Like that, there is a place for this stuff. It's not just like show off how smart you are. There's a place for this stuff. It's it is useful. As a production artist, it's like you can translate those skills into other things. It's not, Are you going to make like a printer out of a box? No, you're not. But why not do it? Because it's fun.
Yeah, it really helped me with Houdini when I started off Houdini. Honestly, like at least I know like a lot of logics behind them. Like I know what node to add next. But though I don't know the node's name, I was like, can we do this particular thing using any node? And Devansh will come and is like, okay, you can use this node to do that function. So it was easy for me. All I have to know is what nodes to use.
Yep.
And I can get it.
That's awesome.
Where's Devansh?
Of course, yeah. But there's always a lot of back and forth. There's always a lot of back and forth stuff going. Is this useful? Is this, are we just wasting our time? Is it like, what's the point of doing this stuff? And it's like, it's useful. I mean, it is like the skills that you gain doing that, you can apply to lots of different things. So it's not a waste of time. It's cool looking. That tardigrade blew me away last year.
Yeah. People think that vector displacement is, and I'm guilty of this as well, like saying that vector displacement is useless, because I don't think it has any place in production. If I was employing somebody and they spent 6 hours making a vector displacement of something that you could model in 10 minutes, you just fire them. There's no time for that. But then the skills, like it's the same logic as you use in Houdini for mesh generation, or you use in Sverchok, or you use in Grasshopper. Like is that a bottle of milk that Josh just drank from?
You're right, though. It is. It's the same logic thought pattern that you do when you're building up your factory.
It's been pretty crazy to just see what everyone's doing and then to try on my own to make, like when I made the cookie, I was like, okay, this is this is big boy stuff. But it's been so, just now when I've been working on this lo-fi hip hop project, I made the one of the cups that the lo-fi hip hop girl has on her table, and I'm like, how would I get that image texture if it's just this one still? And I'm like, I can just use a noise texture and add these colors and do this and that, because I've been picking up on it. I'm slow on the uptake of the vector displacement stuff. But like I was just reading a write-up about an illustration shader, which kind of like harks back to Paul's point earlier, and it just explained how I've seen some renders. I'm like, wow, how did that person get it to look like that just all in Blender? It's like using this shader. So it's it's got so many, it's so applicable.
Yeah, it's cool that you've been jumping into the material stuff now as well. I'm sorry I wasn't there for when you jumped into my server, and did Gabe give you a little bit of a mentoring session?
Yeah, that was really helpful as well. And it kind of, I was reminded of that earlier when you were saying that you were having Sharon try to explain things to you in a different way, because it really helped to have Gabe kind of draw things out and take the questions, and he was like, well, if you have this circle here and you want to scoop this version out, and then obviously getting help from Sharon and Aaron as well has been really, really useful. But it's dense stuff, at least for me, man. Like, I don't, when Aaron said, the wing flaps on the croissant, I wonder how you're going to do that. I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm just going to do something else. Because if you're interested to see how I solve that problem, we're going to be here, past November. So I've been working on a pie instead, and man, it's just taking ages. But maybe next November will take us long. Because you said you spend 9 hours. I've been like 12 hours just sitting trying to move stuff.
That's why I'm really happy that I've been able to jump in there. I don't have the time.
It's been good. I'm gonna do them all, but just maybe not one. I can't pull 30 or 31 all-nighters. I'll die. I'll be useless. So.
And I'm really happy that CGMite is putting out videos every single day. It's so helpful.
Well too.
Like he has a really different way to explain stuff, which I didn't even think we could think about it in this way so far. It's like, oh, this is nice, and it's like
that's something. Yeah, that's something that I've really found helpful as somebody who had very minimal. Like I've just used the principled BSDF and a couple of other nodes here and there, but as somebody who came into this not really understanding, having so many people with very different teaching styles, but the same drive to get you to understand and to help you, and that are actually available on Discord or in the comments. That's been really helpful. Because if I don't understand something from one of you, I'll just go watch the other's video, and then I'll come back and I'll understand what I missed in the other. So yeah, that's been immense help.
Also,
have you been participating in Nodevember? Let us know.
I've been watching, watching from a distance, like the observing. How do you guys animate your nodes? By the way, all these crazy fruit-like spinning shit. You know what I'm talking about? How do you animate them? Like
packs with
drivers,
with gods,
making bargains.
Just use them. Use like a. So I use a value node that I put hash frame in, so it takes the frame value or the current frame number as an output, and then I just like if you want something to move 2 meters over the from frame 20 to frame 40, then you can use a map range that takes that frame value from, and so your from min and max would be 20 to 40, and then your output would be 0 to 2. And then you just plug that into whatever. So it's quite simple. It's just a bit of a logistical thing when you've got a few things going on.
Yeah, we could use curves to animate them as well. Like you can draw the curve with the timing, and it will do that as well.
Yeah, for RGB curves.
RGB curves. They're so handy. I tried algorithmic drawing, and it's so hard because it gets quite complex and you have to mask out everything. But yeah, I gave a try for the eye, drawing an eye for draw prompt. It was quite fun, but I didn't have time to complete it. I thought I can animate the eye closing and opening. I was like, oh, never mind. Let's just not touch it.
The result was still good. It looks good.
Yeah.
Cool. Really like your camera too.
Thank you. I thought I'll make it like a pencil stroke, but then I ended up doing it like an ink drawing. Yeah, it was nice. And then I used CG Matter Stick to just burn it out, but not in the same way. But yeah, in a different way. It was nice. But honestly, I'm spending a lot of time in front of my laptop, and it's kind of getting tiring. And I'm not able to spend much time with my family, and I have a college, so taking breaks are really hard, and I just want to complete them. So it's addictive. Honestly, it's addictive for me.
I've not been dreaming in sliders and shaders and I stopped yesterday or the day before in the afternoon because I was like, I just need to work on something else, but still in Blender, because I wanted to scratch the itch of being in Blender. And so there was a project that I had for work, and Premiere kept crashing repeatedly. I was like, well, can I do this in Blender? Yep, I can. So I just loaded it into Blender and started working on it there, and instantly just felt better that I wasn't in the Nodevember fever, because it really was 4 all-nighters consecutively just trying to catch up. And understand. But it's a lot of fun, like seeing people's just where they go. I was wondering, I was like, what are people gonna do for draw? Holy ish. Like a lot of amazing stuff is the answer. And so many more days to look forward to.
I was speaking to
and then Aaron made a cloth simulation for draw.
Everything's noise. Everything's always noise.
Yeah, it's always nice to just make it jiggle and wiggle. But honestly, that one was amazing.
I was speaking to Gabe last night, and he was trying to figure out what to do for layered, which is done now. But I said to him, I wonder how many people are going to do Shrek, and I'm happy to say at least someone has.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with that. Let's see. That's
layered is over.
Hey there. Hey there. Got it.
That's a 2D shader. He's just done it all with layering up these shapes.
Oh my god.
I wanted to do a 3D Shrek vector displacement, but then I've just not had time because of doing I don't know, if you spend on average 5 hours making a shader and then 2 hours putting together time lapses and voiceovers, and then also an hour of social media, and it's just all these things add up, and I'm finishing at between 4 and 6 a.m. each day now. Oh yeah,
it's actually quite horrifying.
Whoa.
Yeah, but he tried, and it was amazing. I literally thought in our server, what was happening was they're taking people's images and generating random people from internet, and I was like, okay, maybe this could be this one. They put up a Shrek and they did it. I was like, no, it's nodes. I was like, what?
All with
God.
nodes.
Yeah, all
So,
nodes.
this reference is lost on me, and I'm sure someone watching, hopefully, will also be lost in this reference. What's the Shrek connection between layered
Onions
and...
have
Ogres
layers.
have
Ogres have
layers.
layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, very
Maybe I'm
sorry.
alone.
Ogres have
God.
layers. So yeah,
Layers.
well yeah, you've been dreaming in nodes, but I dreamt of our upcoming puppy last night, which is very nice.
Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got so much
man,
footage.
I told Curtis about this, but even I got Penny into my dreams one day, and I just told him, it's
Yeah.
like you're too desperate. It's like, yes, I am.
Yeah. Everyone's been dreaming
He's
of
sending
the
so many
puppy.
cute pictures.
Yeah.
He's sending so many cute pictures. I can't just stop.
I'm
getting
gonna
awesome.
bring up another picture here. Hold on. She's
Right here on the
such-
screen.
Yeah, she's
God.
such a cutie. Hold on. Let's see. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at those big little hands.
Yeah, a little spaniel pup. Oh.
So cute.